Hey guys, and welcome back on the Dark Vanities, in the name of horror, of fantasy and gothic fiction. I'm Kane Camarda, and I'm a writer, poet, and a bit a photography expert. I don't use photography or videography for work, but I understand marketing mechanisms and also the strategies, okay? Today I'm here to speak and discuss with you again about the Fujifilm XM5. Honestly, it is a bit strange, this attempt by myself to speak again about the same topic again and again. I think this is the third or fourth video that I make about this topic. So why today is a bit different than the other times? Again, we are dealing with speculations. Again, we don't have any certain information by Fujifilm, but more and more leaks and rumors are coming out. Especially on Friday, I read an article again on my smartphone, nothing special, just an article, one like the others that you see around the internet. And in this article it was suggested that the Fujifilm XM5 will have the same film simulation dial that we see on the Fujifilm XT50. You know, the same dial that I don't like. I honestly would prefer ISO or a drive dial, not the film simulation dial. Why? For two reasons. First one is because I think it's more practical to have the ISO dial that you can spin, because it would be more comfortable and more instant. You know, it would be quicker to use the camera. You know, you need to change ISO. You spin the dial, placed on the left near the hot shoe, and from there you can change the parameters in order to achieve your correct exposure, okay? But in this case we don't have the ISO dial. Why? Because as the joystick, sorry, not the joystick, the D-pad, you know, the wheel, the D-pad for directional, like that section of the cameras, it is reserved only for the flagships. For example, the Fujifilm XH2, XH2S, XT5, XT4, and so on. The last XT camera which had this kind of spin wheel was the XT20. And honestly, I'm so used to this kind of wheel with the Sony ZVE10 that I had owned, and now with the Sony ZVE10 that you are looking at right now. I am filming on the Sony ZVE10 with a small rig mic with some filters applied on, you know, the screw-on filters, ND and Pro Mist and Black Mist Soft and all these mesh up. And then we have here the flashes of two of my smartphones, which are not iPhones, not flagships, you know, just mid-range, or even this one is a budget one, even very old. And here I have the light, like the RGB light, okay, like a rectangle. So, coming back to the XM5, why in this case it would be useful to have this kind of film simulation dial? Because it would stimulate people to change, you know, to change these color filters, these parameters. But it would be really useful. Something that we still don't have on the XT50 is the possibility to not change, to apply, to assign some custom recipes on the, for example, C1, C2, and C3. I don't remember how much slots it has. Okay, so you have, for example, nostalgic neg, real ace, eterna bleach bypass, eterna classic neg, classic chrome, and then across, and then you find 3 or 4 empty slots. On the XT50 you can assign existing film simulations, for example Provia, Velvia, or Sepia, even if people don't like Sepia, ProNeg High, okay, ProNeg Standard, Astia. But on the XM5, I hope that they will provide the possibility to assign custom films recipes, for example, a Portra or Ekta Kodachrome, I don't know, these kind of film recipes that you find on X Weekly. Okay, so that would be a reason why I think this dial would be useful. But before I said that there was a second reason why I don't think that this dial would be actually useful, and that's why when you if you use this kind of camera for a story or for narrative purposes, or even, you know, for an event, for example for a graduation, you don't tend to change film simulations during the process. For example, if I am filming a short movie, okay, or short clips, I like to keep the same colors, to keep the same mood. For example, I would not film this review partially through this color and then change to another color and then in black and white. Or if I have creative intentions, that's okay. But if I didn't have these kind of intentions, then it would be a bit cringe, a bit over too much, you know. So I don't know. But if they price this camera in the budget area, so under 1,000 euros, because I'm speaking from Italy, actually I think it would be okay to have this kind of film simulation dial, just to separate it and to give it a kind of identity towards the youth, the young target, the new content creators. And now I will say again what I would like to what they wrote, what someone wrote in the article that I read on Friday, was something like the XS20. So they just gave an improvisation about the XT5, but most importantly, these people who wrote the article, the authors, reported how this camera would be similar to the XM5. XM5 is to the XS20. XS20 is the camera that I would not like to own because it is a bit too much. Honestly, I would not need the vlog mode because I shoot in manual. I don't need the 6K, the 4K 60 with the crop, and I don't need a super snappy autofocus. But if a new person, a young guy or a young girl, or even someone who wants a small camera, a portable one to travel, then these kind of people would like to have a snappy autofocus and the 7 stops IBIS, the 5-axis in-body stabilization. Then you would like to have the other characteristics that the XS20 has. But then how would you cripple the same camera? Because if it has the same sensor, the X-Trans 4 with the X Processor 5, with the with nostalgic nag and with nostalgic nag and with the Real Ace, how would you differentiate it from the XS20? Honestly, I think that if Fujifilm will follow that pattern, then they would use again the same battery that is in the XT50, okay, in the XT30 Mark II, XT50, XT4, XS10, okay, the same small battery. Then I think that they will not give the 40 megapixel, and that's okay. And I honestly like a camera without the 40 megapixels, because if you have 40 megapixel, probably the sensor readout would be slower and the low light performance would be a bit less confident than a 24, 26 megapixel camera. For example, compare the Canon R5, the Canon R6 Mark II, or think about the Canon R1. They didn't include a 61 megapixel as people rumored about, but they provided a 24 megapixel, and that's okay because they wanted to provide a very fast camera and a very reliable low light performance. For example, in the R6 Mark II, think about the Panasonic Lumix GH5S, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, or the Canon R5C R5C, or the Nikon the Sony. I don't know if the Sony FX30 has the dual ISO. I think so. The Sony FX3, the Sony A7S III, they have the dual base ISO at even 1200 and 8000. 12,800. Okay, ISO. So you can see in the dark, only under the light of the moon, in a very dim light, you can still see what's around you and focus. That's a great. But coming back to the XM5, I would like to see like a small H2S, but a small of the small, because the small H2S is the XS20, and we here wanted the small of the small, like the nephew, because if the smaller version is the XS20 without some fast capabilities, speed, the stack sensor and so on. Here they would limit some performance about the XS20, I think, because that would differentiate the targets and the market segments, okay? But I'm still not sure how they will do this, because honestly I'm a bit concerned about these choices, because okay, I understand how Fujifilm want us to wait and to provide this kind of camera. That's why I recently watched some content about the XT200, XA7, XS20, XS10, XT30 Mark II, XT4, X100F even. I wanted to understand how would a low budget, low-end camera fit in the Fujifilm lineup, because if you think they had in the previous generation the not the XH1, not the XH2, but they had XT4, X Pro 3. Okay, the XT4 was the flagship. Then they had the X Pro 3, and these were the big cameras, Fujifilm. Fujifilm X100V, the compact point and shoot one. Then all with the same sensor, Then they had the XT30 Mark II and XS10, and then they had the XE4. So the three, I think 6 or 7 cameras with the same sensor. Honestly, they were like the same, but even the XT3, but they looked similar in many ways. They had similar performance, but in one way or another they were different. For example, the XM5 would not have the viewfinder like the XA7, the XT200 I think had a viewfinder. So honestly, I'm a bit worried about these choices. I would not like Fujifilm to place this camera like the ZVE10 Mark II in, for example, 1100, so 1100 euros body only, 1200 euros body with the kit lens. That would not be great, because if you spend a bit more, then you get the XS20, the XT50, and then the XT5. So I don't know. I hope that Fujifilm won't make the same mistake made with the XT50, because that camera was nice, not one of my preferred ones, because again it had too much. I didn't want the 6K, I didn't want the 4K 60, but that's what the market demands. Fujifilm doesn't make cameras, doesn't launch products specially made for me, as a person with needs, as a person with some experience or some expectations. They are evaluating and comparing all the needs of the consumers and different targets, as I said. Sorry if today I'm a bit specific with the marketing terms, but that's why I'm so interested in this launch, because they still need to launch the X Pro 4 and the XE5. And how will the XM5 will be different than these, other than these two cameras? That's my question. I hope that we will receive an answer before Christmas, but until then we will wait towards other rumors, okay? So, in the name of horror, of fantasy and gothic fiction, dark vanities, oops, subscribe to the channel right now. Oh freak, I lost my gear. No. Let's wait for the XM5 together. Write in the comments what you think about this, or what you would like to see or not to see included in this camera. Honestly, what would be the reason for me to buy this camera? The first one would be the price, honestly, if it was under 1,000 euros, because it would not be my main camera. I would have the ZVE10 II, which I'm using right now, but then I would also use this XM5 to creative stuff, creative photos, creative videos, and so on. So the second reason, honestly, would be the film simulations, so the real ace and the nostalgic nag. The third reason would be the compactness. I would bring it, not, I don't say in my pocket, but in a small bag. Then the fourth reason would be the IBIS and the 553 embodiment stabilization. The fifth and final reason, honestly, which would lead me to buy and to order the XM5, would be the simplicity. Okay? I need this camera to be simple. Simplicity doesn't mean powerless. A simple tool doesn't mean that you have crippled instruments to count on. Simplicity doesn't mean simplicity doesn't mean that you can rely on something not reliable. In other terms, if you buy something simple like the ZVE10 II, in this case, it doesn't have dials, it doesn't have buttons, it doesn't have anything, even IBIS, or I don't know. It is really a small, simple camera. That's why I like it the most. I had the ZVE10, but then I didn't have the money to buy the lenses, and I didn't want to use that camera for all the magnificent purposes that this life has to offer, because most of the times the colors or the look that camera provided me for these kind of purposes, for example cinematic videos, b-rolls, or family pictures or important event pictures, the ZVE10 didn't provide enough pleasure, you know. The picture looked all the same, the videos looked all so clean, so clinical, without character. That's why I'm applying the mist filters on the lenses of also on the lens of the ZVE10 II, because otherwise it will be really too much clean and that will be impersonal. Okay, so the XM5 would have the character of the XS20, which had the character of the XT4 and the XS10, and that's why. So what is my plan right now is to buy the XS10 used, the XT30 Mark II used, and the XM5 new. These three cameras would share the same sensor but different processor in the XM5, and two more film simulations in the XM5 due to the processor, and then the same megapixel count. Okay, goodbye my friends.